another really powerful story that's very classic in the design thinking space comes out of a class from Stanford University called Designing for Extreme Affordability, I believe. And this group of students was tasked with an issue of infant mortality over in third world countries, that upwards of 4 million babies were dying each year within the first weeks or months of their birth. And the issue is incubators, which are really essential for the care of a newborn who is born prematurely to keep them warm, to help regulate their body temperature, are really expensive, really hard to maintain. And so countries like Nepal weren't able to have that equipment. So what do we do? How do we create a low-cost incubator? So the team came up with all these prototypes, figured out how we can use water, how we can use other things to regulate temperature, went over to Nepal to do their design work, their discovery work, started noticing that there are incubators in the hospitals. And so they were asking the team, okay, so I see that you have them. What's not working? Come to discover the incubators were there and they actually were working. The problem is, by the time the babies were getting to the hospital, they were too sick that the incubators weren't helping, because in these third world countries, babies were being born out in the villages that were 4 to 8 hours away from the nearest hospital. So these mothers are giving birth in their villages, and it would take days sometimes to get the baby to a hospital. So that team then realized the user that we're solving for is not the hospital that needs cheaper incubators. The user that we're solving for is the mother in these remote villages that are having the premature babies that can't keep their baby warm enough to survive in the early hours of their life. So rather than building these cheaper incubators, what they went to was it's called the Embrace Infant Warmer, and it looks like this little teeny tiny baby sleeping bag that you can heat up a pack of paraffin wax. You can heat it up with fire. You can heat it up with boiling water. You can use electricity, whatever they have. It keeps a steady temperature for 8 hours. And so the mothers then were able to give birth, bundle up their baby, transport it to the hospital. And then the baby had a chance of survival because it was in better shape when it got to the hospital. So I love that story because of the pivot of, we thought we were designing an incubator for the hospitals. The real user is the mother and the baby, and they have a totally different problem. And if we really want to make a difference in infant mortality, that's what we need to solve.
Yeah, that's
fun features about how that evolved, but that pivot in who am I really solving for and what do they really need, I think is a really great example of design thinking in action.
It's such a great, inspiring example, and it's insightful because I think about all of these issues that our society is facing, and a lot of people tend to have this sense of like, well, we'll just pass a law that makes this legal or illegal, and then the thing is fixed. And they fail to realize that the problem, like, you could give this hospital all these incubators, it ain't going to fix the problem. And so if you actually care about the infants that are dying, then you'll actually want to solve the problem, not just pass a law that makes you feel better about yourself, right?